When we were kids, me and my sister used to duck down in the back seat of the car whenever we drove past, Darren said. We'd insist that Dad drive us there when we came back that way after a day trip to the borders or wherever. But by the time we got there, Dad's ghost stories would have us so scared that we'd lie down and hide in case she saw us. What are you guys talking about? Said Paul, returning from the bar with 3 pints, which he struggled to fit amongst all the empties crowding the table. The White Lady of Delaval Hall, Darren said in an exaggerated, spooky voice, waving his hands in front of him. She haunts the Bloody Tower. I was just telling Darren. We studied Delaval Hall at uni. An interesting place, Lucy explained. You're learning about ghosts? I thought you were studying architecture. I am. We studied Van Brough. He designed it. I also read about the family history. They go back to 1066 and the ghost was just something that kept coming up. I didn't actually study it. So, who was she? Owen said, rolling a cigarette in his lap. I mean, there must be something to it. There's no smoke without fire. Nonsense, Paul said. It'll be some local superstition invented to attract tourists. According to the story, Lucy ignored Paul's interjection and turned to face Owen, absent-mindedly placing her hand on Paul's knee. The move surprised Paul and brought back memories from school when he and Lucy had briefly been an item before he had left for Oxford University. She had stayed in the northeast to study and take care of her ailing mother, and this was the first time they'd met since then. She was a noble woman, betrothed to one of the Lord's sons. He never came back from the war, and she died of a broken heart. Her spirit keeps a vigil in case he returns. See? I told you, Paul responded, slightly annoyed with the talk. Nobody dies of a broken heart. It's physically impossible. It's meant to be poetic, Paul, Lucy said. Who knows how she died? But it's a sad story. Unrequited love is so sorrowful and completely fictitious. Paul downed his pint. There's no such thing as ghosts. You used to cross the road when we walked past the cemetery on the way home from the park, in case the mad monk got you, Darren said, laughing. Yeah, when I was 10 years old. I believed in Santa Claus too. Well, there's only one way to find out, Owen said. What are you suggesting? It's just down the road. We can go and check it out for ourselves. Like ghost hunters? Lucy said. That could be fun. Don't be ridiculous. It's the first time I've seen you guys in ages. I don't want to spend the night wandering around looking for imaginary spooks. Besides, I need more beer. I can't get a decent pint in Oxford. Paul stood and went back to the bar. This time when he returned, he was pleased to hear folk had returned to reminiscing about old times. It continued until the time bell rang. They made their way, in good spirits, to the pub car park and said their goodbyes. Anybody fancy a club? Whitley Bay? Blackpool of the North? Owen said, sucking on his cigarette. Blackpool is already north, Paul said. Well, it's south from here. Can't, I'm afraid. I've got work in the morning, Darren said. I forgot. You don't get the summer off like us lazy students. Owen laughed. Can I give anyone a lift? Darren offered, as he unlocked his car. Cheers, but I'm off for a bob, Owen said. Good to see you guys. I can drop Paul off, Lucy said. It's not that far out of my way. Well, if you insist, Paul said. It'll save me the price of a taxi. Which way are you going? Paul asked, as Lucy turned off the coast road. I thought we could take a look at Delaval Hall while we were in the area, Lucy said. That course made me really curious about the place, and I haven't had a chance to visit it since I've been back. What do you expect to see at night? I don't know. Maybe the White Lady? Lucy giggled. Paul was dubious, but the visit would give them some more time together. He realised that he had missed her company, more than he would like to admit. They parked the car in a lay-by a short distance from the stately home and walked along the estate's walls to the main entrance. The gates are locked, Paul said, and he started walking back to the car. Look at the height of the wall. We can just step over it, Lucy said, walking up to the barrier. He pointed in front of them. There's someone up there. Look. Paul pointed to a shape silhouetted above the staircase in front of the main entrance to the house. Clean your glasses. Scaredy cat. That's just a statue. Are you coming or not? Lucy asked, looking down at him from atop the low wall. Paul sighed and followed her over. They stood in the courtyard, facing the big, baroque main block, flanked by colonnaded wings, to their left and right. So, where does the White Lady keep her melancholy vigil? Paul asked. At the window in the east wing, they say, Lucy said, in barely more than a whisper. Looking out for the return of her lost lover. Up there. She pointed to a first-floor window on the north front. The friends stood silently in the moonlight, scrutinizing the window where the ghost was said to appear. Their fingertips brushed against each other and neither moved their hand away. Despite the silliness of the situation, Paul felt his heart racing and a shiver ran down the back of his neck, as if someone was watching him from behind. He knew it was just his excitement, but he still felt the urge to look and make sure. As he turned, he saw a shadow staring at him from a window in the east wing. His heart jumped in his chest and he stood rooted to the spot, jaw clenched. A light illuminated the window, and someone shouted, "What the hell are you doing? I'm calling the police!" They ran. Paul turned west, and Lucy followed him, sprinting through some trees in the direction of the public car park, away from the house. They collapsed, breathless and giggling like children once they were out of sight of the house. "Lucy, are you okay?" She had started wheezing heavily and Paul was concerned.
"Asthma. Not supposed to run. Inhaler. In back,"
she said, as she bent over, heaving with heavy breaths. Paul found the inhaler under her phone and handed it to Lucy, who was still finding it hard to breathe. "We should go back," Paul said, once Lucy had recovered. "There's nothing more to see here, and you need rest." "That's the mausoleum," Lucy said, seemingly fine now. "What's that?" Paul asked. "It's where you put dead bodies." "I know what a mausoleum is, I just didn't know there was one here." "There is. It's just over there." She pointed across the field behind them. "It's a listed building in its own right, although apparently it's in a bit of a state. I'd like to take a look at it while I'm here. One of the lords built it as a memorial to his son. You wouldn't believe how he died." "And he's buried there?" "No. It's never been used for burial. The local bishop refused to consecrate it." "I don't think you're up to it," Paul said. "Speak for yourself," Lucy said. "I'm fine now. If you're scared, just say so." "Well, let's go on then," Paul said, not wanting to appear a coward. He pulled out his phone and switched on its torch beam. "Don't do that," Lucy said. "They might be able to see the light from the house. There's plenty of moonlight." They set off across the field in the direction of a copse of trees.